I will call to order the January 27th, 2026 Town Council meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. If you could all stand for pledge allegiance and moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So that brings us to agenda item 4, presentations, of which we have none. So that takes us to item 5, public petitions, communications, and public participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of the council with a 3-minute limit. I'll start in the room. If you'd like to participate, please raise your hand and come forward. Seeing none, I will go online. If you'd like to make a comment, please raise your Zoom hand and you can ask it to unmute. Seeing none, I'll go back to the room. Okay, I'll go back online for one final time. If you'd like to speak, please raise your Zoom hand. And seeing none there, back to the room final time. And seeing none, we'll close out public listed participation, which brings us to public hearing items, of which there are none. And then, so that brings us to 7A, reports of boards and committees responsible to the council. Councilor Beebe, anything on the firehouse subcommittee?
Yes, we had a meeting and got an update on the various stations. The work continues. The masonry project will obviously we want to start into the spring, especially now. And design work continues on 140, and everything is just moving forward. And our town staff is doing a great job.
Great, thank you. Contaminated wells, Brian, I know that's obviously something that's been ongoing. I think Deep recently met with residents in the at the library, residents of the vineyards maybe.
Yes, they met with residents of the vineyards, and in fact, there's the next council meeting, I believe prior to, we have an executive session regarding that as well, but nothing of consequence.
Okay. But so I'll just say, it continues to be something that's front of mind for the council, and moving towards resolutions as quickly as we can. I think is really important. Engaging, whoever we can, state partners and others, to try to do whatever we can to.
We are requesting more.
Yes.
More funding. Yourself, myself, our state rep, Eastern Highland Health District. We're all on a call and an effort to come up with the best ways to approach OPM for additional funding to assist the vineyards in ways to mitigate the amount of sodium chloride getting into the water.
Anything grog related or anything like that, Brian? I attended a orientation meeting today, just giving an overview of the things CROG offers. Anything else on that front?
I have an e-chip update that'll be my town manager's report.
Okay, thank you. So that brings us to 7B, reports of town council liaisons. So I'll just do a quick run through the room if there are any updates. Councilor Beebe, any updates on anything?
Yes, well, the planning and zoning meeting was canceled last night because of the weather. The Commission on Persons with Disabilities did meet the week before, and there is a really some really interesting discussion going on there regarding presentations that are help people with family members or people who themselves may be disabled to provide both maybe limited powers of attorney or like compassionate care. So there is a seminar on the 29th. I think that's been forwarded through town staff and has been forwarded from the chair of that commission. So I can forward it on to you if you want to make it public.
Great.
Here.
Thank you. Councilor Bisa?
I haven't had any.
Okay. Councilor Shea?
So the only thing I can report is that the Agriculture Commission will have a farmers market meet and greet on February 2nd at the library program room.
Thank you. Councilor Wells?
Nothing to currently report. EDC is next Wednesday and Park and Rec is a week after that on Monday in 2 weeks, so.
Thank you. And I also don't believe I have anything to report either. So that closes out 7B. And that brings us to new business. Agenda item 8.1, appointment of a member to the town council. I'll just give a couple of remarks and then I'll let, if Brian has anything else he wants to add. So we're, the council is mandated by charter to fill vacancies that arise within 30 days, vacancies that arise on the council within 30 days. It's a non-discretionary duty that we have to carry that out. And we're required to fill it pursuant to the charter with by someone of the same party of the vacant seat. So my job is just to make sure that we, if we have, a qualified individual, to make sure that we, to the council, ensure that we have a timely vote on that so that we can, fill vacancies as timely as we can. I'll just emphasize that, this is the process that's been followed, to date. And so the GTC has endorsed Mary Rose DeBerrick to fill the vacancy created by Councilor Graney. And she's been a longtime resident of Tolland for 24 years. She's been involved in the community for much of that time. She's volunteered with the boosters. She has extensive emergency management background and experience that I think would be a huge asset to the council. She's level-headed and she's committed to working in a bipartisan manner in the best interests of the town. So I think she would serve with distinction on the council and the town would be lucky to have her. And so she meets the requirements of the charter and the process meets the process requirements that the charter lays out as well. So Brian, if you have anything else to chat.
Yes, we, the town, need your direction and action to fulfill our town business. There is no great reward for you guys being on town council. You do it for free. You are all volunteers, and I thank you all very much for that. We need a town council to move forward with our direction and action. Attached to your packet is a letter of resignation and also a letter of recommendation. I sought advice from town council attorney this morning regarding tonight, and they said he said we need 4 affirmative votes to move forward. That was his advice today, and that's all I have, sir.
So with that said, I will entertain a motion to appoint Mary Rose DeBerrick to fill the vacancy created by Councilor Graney's resignation.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Beebe. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Wells. Is there any discussion?
We had some correspondence that suggested that we should wait until we have both seats proposed to be filled before we move ahead. We've had a fair amount of kind of turmoil here since we started, and it's an important decision, and I feel that that is a good suggestion, that we consider waiting till we have both parties that the Democrat Town Council wants to put up.
Okay, just to be clear, there's no charter requirement for that. Just
I understand that.
okay.
No, absolutely.
Yep. So I just think that it's important that we move expeditiously to we're in an unfortunate position, but to fill those vacancies. But appreciate your input. Councilor Shea.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate what Councilor Bisa has indicated, and I think it gives us, this is kind of a unique situation that we haven't, I don't believe we've ever had, at least not in recent history, where we have 2 council members that we're looking to fill seats for, and we feel more comfortable knowing, since these people aren't being voted in by the residents any longer. I think we'd feel more comfortable knowing both individuals that we are getting at the same time, as opposed to doing one and then voting that person in and then waiting to get another one.
Thank you, Councilor Shea. Any other discussion? Councilor Beebe.
So I think this, so I would like to reiterate that I concur with you that there is absolutely zero requirement in the charter to support a delay tactic like this, and it is a delay tactic, let's be very clear about what this is. This is a delay tactic. There is absolutely nothing. And I say this as a previous co-chair of the Charter Revision Commission, where we discussed this very thing. There is absolutely nothing in the charter, or nothing that was ever anticipated that would preclude us from filling a seat that's necessary to assist with town business, instead of leaving us at a deficit on purpose for some, I'm not sure what reason. We have a very qualified candidate, and the only thing that's before us is that candidate qualified. Does she meet the conditions of the charter? Does she meet state statute? The answer is yes. So there is no reason other than to keep this body at 5 members for the delay in approving or voting on our proposed member. And this is one of the reasons, frankly, in the predicate that was made about working in a bipartisan fashion. This is not working in a bipartisan fashion. This is opposing the charter, opposing what we are supposed to do, right? It's coming up with a made up reason to not move forward, fill a seat on behalf of the town, to allow the person to do the work on behalf of the town. And does not show intent to work in a collegial fashion to fulfill the needs of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Wells?
So I'm struggling here a little bit. I'm not personally involved in the selection process. So I don't know where to begin on where we're at finding 2 qualified candidates. I do know that there is one qualified candidate that has stepped up in a tumultuous situation, to say the least, to provide stability in a government process. And I know I was particularly elected by all the residents that voted for me to make sure that we have a governmental process that's functional and that moves forward. So I think tonight is a very important process in making sure we have functional government and we have a process that moves forward. So my concern is that we're filibustering for some reason, and that's just my lens of this right now. And if there's a particular reason why this candidate isn't qualified, shouldn't sit the seat, I would love to hear it. I would love to figure out a reason why Mrs. Dubarick can't be seated tonight. This dialogue could have been presented prior to government business in this meeting, in these proceedings. So that's kind of my feelings on this. I seconded her nomination to get government moving to fill the seats as required with a 30-day notice. Unfortunately, we do have some vacancies. We have some holes to fill. It's our obligation and duty as a body collectively to seat a member here and get forward with business. So that's my 2 cents on this.
Thank you, Councillor Wells. Councillor Shea.
Sure. So a couple of things. First of all, this is not at all a delay tactic. What this is more of a concern based on the history that we've had with the council, where we had particularly one very, very confrontational individual who did not work at all across the table, who has fortunately resigned. And then we had another individual that was being replaced that came on board with sort of the same attitude. So what we're trying to do is get 2 counselors that we feel can work very well across the table with the entire town council. So this is not a delay tactic by any stretch of the imagination. And because of the charter, I'm not trying to bypass the charter. The charter clearly states that they have to have 4 votes for this individual to be approved on, correct? I believe Brian Foley has indicated that. So if we vote in one individual, we once again have no say in who the second individual is. You could bring another horrible candidate that has absolutely no intentions of working across the aisle, and then we're stuck with that candidate. So what we're trying to do is use this opportunity to make sure that we put the proper people in place that can work together with everyone and not just with the three of you.
Further discussion. Councilor Bisson.
This is not opposing the charter either, just to be clear, the charter says we have 30 days. Plenty of time to find the second person. What Joe said, I agree with, and that is, but it is not opposing the charter, so that I would argue that that is not correct. And actually, this process right here actually does give us the opportunity to truly work together, to have all 5 of us agree, as opposed to 4 and 2 or 5 and 2. We are in a situation where everyone says they want to work together and everyone should have a voice. This is the opportunity for us to really do that. So I think we should, embrace it, and let's do that.
Thank you. Councilor Wells.
Do we have, or what is the step if we don't seat, if this seat stays vacant after 30 days? Because here's my concern, is that you're now in a position, and you've showed that you're in a position that you're going to decide who sits in the seat and who doesn't. You've made that very clear tonight. That's concerning. So what is the process of finding the successful candidate to get the vote so we don't hit this 30-day mark? So I guess there's a 2-part question. 1, what happens if we go beyond 30 days? 2, how do we get to the process of seating the 2 people if that's what's required? Is it just having 2 candidates and then we have 2 bodies and you guys are comfortable because there's 2 bodies? Or are we vetting names, are we vetting history, and are we vetting like where are we going from here?
Thank you, Councilor Wells. On the first piece, I'll say that I think that's definitely some legal gray area or some ambiguity if we get to the 30 days. I obviously can't speak to the second piece about whether they, if it's just a matter of having 2 bodies or not, what our colleagues would feel. I would just ask if either Councilor Shea or Councilor Bisson could explain why Mayor Rose DeBerrick would not be qualified to fill the vacant seat.
I don't think anyone said that.
Okay, so under our charter, we have a clear and time-limited duty, right, to act to fill vacancies on the council within the 30 days, right? And there's not a lot of discretion in that, right? We're looking at qualifications, we're looking at the charter requires that we fulfill it within 30 days, that they be filled with someone of the same party that the vacating council member was of. And so it's just unclear to me why there wouldn't be support for for Mary Rose DeBerrick.
I thought Mr. Graney, I thought he was unaffiliated, first of all, so he wasn't a Democrat.
But pursuant to charter, he's elected by a party with the party. That's the party that gets to
You can put in whoever you want. You can put in another unaffiliated, just like you did when Colleen resigned, and you put Graney in. She was unaffiliated, he was unaffiliated. So that is actually not, from your own history, not how it necessarily has to work. But that's neither here nor there.
Point of clarification. Councilor Yudichak ran on the Democratic slate.
Yeah.
Councilor Yudichak was elected on the Democratic slate.
Yeah.
Councilor Yudichak chose to change her affiliation in the middle of her term, which the Democratic slate had nothing to do with. And she made that decision. And then when she chose to resign, because that seat was originally still supported by the Democratic slate, so that is what you're describing is a moot point, right? That is
absolutely
right. So whether she was affiliated, unaffiliated, or not unaffiliated, she was supported and elected on the Democratic slate, and that's what governed, and that's why. So we could have filled her seat with a Democrat or with an unaffiliated, anybody that was endorsed by the TDTC. Right, we all know that. Let's not pretend that we don't know that, and let's not pretend that we don't know
anything. Stop with the condescending. That's
that Councilor Yudichak
unnecessary.
changed her affiliation in the middle of her term, which triggered all of that. And I, just to clarify, I agree, I'd like to hear an explanation of why Mrs. Dubarik is not qualified, because if she is qualified, there really isn't a reason for us to delay and not fulfill our service to the town.
I think Counselor Shea has already explained the position.
So following up on that, I find Counselor Shea's words, while they sound reasonable, to be massively hypocritical, because during our last budget hearing, Counselor Shea was the least bipartisan of all the counselors in this chamber. We can go back to the recordings, we can go back to the record, we can hear that he was the person that refused to work across the aisle. He was the person whom every single member that was on the Republican slate, endorsed by the RTC, asked, what was he doing? Councilor Yudichak did it, Chair Mari did it, Alex did it, Councilor Noonan did it. Every single other member was saying, I don't understand what you want, why aren't you working with us? We didn't just say that. The Republicans elected and the unaffiliated member who had changed their affiliation were asking the member of their own caucus why he wasn't working with them. That is not indicative of somebody or of a position that is willing to work across the aisle in a bipartisan fashion. So that assertion now that we should all work in a bipartisan fashion falls flat when it's coming from that particular individual.
Councilor Shea.
Sure. So obviously I have to respond to that. First of all, the members of the Republican Party fully understood why I did not vote for the budgets that were presented. And they all understood completely my position on that. Now, they didn't necessarily agree with me, but that's their right. Like anybody else in the town council has the right to agree or disagree with other members. So they understood that I felt that the town couldn't afford the budgets that were being presented. And the voters basically, I believe 7 times in a row, agreed with me. So that was, and the Republican Party, the TRTC, was in full support of me. So that is a completely false statement that the rest of the party was not understandable of why I voted the way I did. And if you recall, Tammy Nuccio, who was also one of the most well-liked members of the town council and is currently a member of the state house, voted, I believe, on her last term. She was the only Republican who voted against the budget as well. So, no one had hatefulness for her because she didn't just go along with everybody else. And I believe Katie Murray was the other one that voted. So we had one down, one Republican that voted against the budget at that last time. So I think that's a moot point. Now, you want to ask for why we don't believe, at least why I don't believe she's qualified. So first of all, I don't personally know this person. I know that she has no kind words to say for me on Facebook. That's for sure. But I did reach out to other members of our party to see if they've had any interaction with him and how with her and how well she works with other members of our group. And the general consensus is that she doesn't work particularly well with us and that her focus is far too great on the Board of Education. She tends to try to give the Board of Ed anything they want. And we're really looking for a more balanced individual who focuses equally on the town as well as the Board of Ed, because we've dealt with the Board of Ed or die type people on the town council, and it really hasn't worked out very well. So we're looking for a more balanced individual.
Thank you, Councilor Shea. I'll go through if there's any other rounds. I'll do one final round of comments if anyone has anything before we move to a vote.
I would just make a point that what somebody says on social media, I think we have to be very, very careful if we want to go there. I would caution Councilor Shea to be careful about going there, considering some of the postings that were made recently that have to do with community safety and in particular citizen safety and being safe in their own communities and not subjected to arbitrary violence. I would also say that qualifications do not mean somebody's political viewpoints with respect to how they support or don't support the Board of Education. When we're talking about qualifications, it is not their opinions that we are judging. It is their qualifications as set forth in the charter. So while other members may not like their opinions, it does not mean that they are not qualified. So I would again reiterate that I think we have a candidate that is eminently qualified per the requirements of the charter.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, so before we go to a vote, I'll just say, my interactions with Mr. Barrick have always been that she's a pretty level-headed person who, is just genuinely trying to do what's in the best interest of the town. As you know, so I tried very hard not to engage on social media, so I'm not, entirely sure what Mr. Shea's referring to, but certainly I've never seen Mr. Barrick engage in a unprofessional way on Facebook, and so I'll just say I think that she would be a great addition to this council in service to the town. And from my part, I'll say I'm very happy to stand by my record of working in a bipartisan way with my colleagues to the greatest extent that I've been able to do so. And I had some success with that last term, and certainly I'm always looking for ways to do that this term as well. So happy to stand by my record on that. And so the charter, again, I'll just emphasize, the charter imposes a clear time limited duty on this council to fill vacancies within 30 days. We have someone that's eminently qualified to fill the vacancy. And I think it's important that this body do what it needs to do in order to carry out the business of the town. And so I think it's important that she's seated tonight. With that said, I will do a roll call vote since we are hybrid tonight. Councilor Beebe.
Aye.
Councilor Bisson.
Nay.
Councilor Shea.
Nay.
Councilor Wells.
100% yes.
I'm an aye as well. So that is a vote of 3-2. Based on the town manager's representation of what Attorney Conti advised, that does not, we will not see Mary Rose DeBerrick tonight. We will not see Mary Rose DeBerrick tonight. And so I will just emphasize that, I think it's disappointing. It's contrary to how this council has moved forward in the past with voting to confirm numerous people, both Democrats and Republicans, to various boards in this town. So with that said, I will move to agenda item 8.2. Which is consideration of a resolution to authorize the town manager to submit an application on behalf of the Tolland Farmers Market to the Department of Agriculture for the 2026 Agriculture Enhancement Grant. That the town manager is authorized to enter into and execute any agreements that are necessary. Brian.
Great, thank you, Chair. This is a grant that we've applied for and got before. It's in support of our farmers market. When I got here, when I was hired here, we decided to move forward the farmers market on our green, a modest farmers market, not to compete with like a Coventry Carnival type atmosphere, but a modest farmers market. Some of the benefits that the farmers market has is SNAP benefits for people in town and some of our elderly folks to be able to come in, our senior citizen population, and get some benefits, food benefits there. And also the monies would go to advertising the farmers market. With me, I have our grant writer and project manager, Megan Massa. This is a modest grant. I need your permission to move forward to apply for the grant. It's $5,000, but there is up to a 25%. There's a 25% match, which would be up to, if we got the whole amount, $1,250 the town would come up with to support our farmers market. Right now, there's virtually no cost to support the farmers market. This is done in coordination with our agricultural commission, who does a fantastic job. So this is just the basics of us trying to apply for it. We've gotten it in the past, and I would ask that you support it again in the future. And I have Megan Massa here for any questions. Megan, you want to add anything else?
Yeah, I do want to point out that the Agriculture Commission had approved at a special meeting the use of their special revenue fund for the match. So it's not going to come off of the town side.
Thank you. Questions?
No, thank you. It's awesome.
I apologize, you may have said this. I know it's, the Tolland market, is gonna be using it. Do we know specifically what they're using for it?
Wanted to advertise the market as a whole, but also help get word out to our seniors and people that take advantage of SNAP benefits, that they can use those benefits at our farmers market, which we track all that data out of our human services. It's been just a great way to get some, our local farmers fresh food to our residents here in town.
Great, thank you. I think it's fantastic that the farmers market tries to be accommodating with the SNAP benefits and all that kind of stuff. I think that's awesome that we do that. And I just want to thank you, Megan, as of time and time again. Appreciate the amount of work that you put in and the amount of money you generate for the town in grants is crucial. And there's a lot of things that we wouldn't be able to do as a town, but for the hard work that you put into seeking these grants. So greatly appreciate that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Unless there's anything else, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the town manager to submit the grant application as outlined in agenda item 8.2.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Beebe. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Beesaw. Since we're hybrid, we'll do a roll call vote. Councilor Beebe.
Aye.
Councilor Beesaw.
Aye.
Councilor Shea.
Aye.
Councilor Wells.
Hi.
I'm an aye as well, and so that passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That brings us to agenda item 8.3, consideration of a resolution to declare property at Susan Drive as surplus. Brian.
Thank you so much. So, Chair, so this is part of the initiative when I got here was to inventory a lot of the town properties that we have just sitting dormant on our rolls. And these are typically isolated properties. They're landlocked. They're just surrounded by other people that own the land, and town owns these pieces of land, and they're, rather than let them sit dead on our rolls, we would sell them to residents in town. Obviously, because they're landlocked, most of them would only be useful to those who have land in that area. This is a part of that project. David Corcoran took it upon himself to inventory every bit of property here in town that's owned by the town of Tolland. And we're looking at every single one, and if we can get them off and get them to our residents, it's better. Obviously, it's not going to generate a ton of revenue at all, but at least it's not sitting dead on our books. So, David, am I leaving? You want to kind of explain this situation for me?
Yeah, so in this case, we have an interested property owner who owns property behind the subject property. It's a substantial number of acres. His desire, we'll have to offer it to all the butters for sale. It's ultimately town council's discretion who to sell it to. But the one interested party we know of is interested in taking access for a shared driveway off of this piece of right of way. The other option would be if he were to come in with a more intense development, we would keep it in our possession. He would potentially construct a public improvement on this stretch. We would have another road we're responsible for, and maybe get a couple more houses out of it. But in this case, the proposal is to convey it to him so that he can potentially create a shared access driveway for up to 2 houses from there. So that happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, David. Question. I'll just mention again, appreciate all the work you've done, David, on this, and I know the planning zone, I think, has sort of been involved early on. We've met last term with the Land Acquisition Advisory Committee. I think this is an excellent sort of initiative of the town that's been trying to get some of this property that's off of our books back out there onto the roll, even if they don't generate a ton of tax revenue. Better that a resident have ownership of that property, but they can benefit from it, and also so that we can at least have it back on our rolls. So I'm certainly supportive of these efforts, and as I think the town manager may have mentioned, these are all sort of like relatively small and sort of awkwardly placed properties, so it makes sense to try to find the budding property owners that would want to purchase those. So appreciate that. So with that said, I will entertain a motion to adopt a resolution to declare property at Susan Drive as surplus as outlined in agenda item 8.3.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Beebe. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Shea. We'll do a roll call. Councilor Beebe.
Yeah.
Councilor Beesaw.
Aye.
Councilor Shea.
Yeah.
Aye.
Councilor Wells.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well, so that passes unanimously. So that brings us to item 8.4, road traffic safety update, Goose Lane, Anderson Road. I'll give it to the town manager in a second. I just wanted to emphasize that there's obviously been a significant amount of interest and concern over traffic safety. There's been some accidents, pretty serious accidents lately, in particular on the Goose and Anderson intersection. But in general, I know we're always looking for ways to improve road safety. And so I appreciate that we're having this discussion tonight. So, Brian.
Thank you, Chair. So we're gonna cover a couple of things while we're talking traffic safety. This is specifically, we'll start with Goose and Anderson. This was brought up to our attention earlier. We saw a lot of talk about it online. There have been some recent accidents in the area. As a resident, I had concerns as I drive through that intersection almost every day, and have a child that will be going through as well. There did seem to me, as just a lay person with some traffic enforcement experience, that it certainly was problematic. To kind of run you through some of the steps that I take when we start to see a traffic problem or potential traffic problem. I have a good cachet of experts here. Typically, not in any specific order, but typically I always call Chief Lytle first. He's been in the town forever and then some, and he knows every intersection, every road here, and I'll get his opinion, personal and then professional, and a statistical opinion. And then we have a local traffic authority, and that's a special training in regards to traffic safety and handling of traffic in town that our Public Works Director Lappin has attained. He is our LTA. I'll get his opinion on it, as he's been here a long time and he knows the signage, the paintings, the line striping and such that comes with the road. And then through the years, the troopers have come and gone. Now I would ask Corey if Trooper Brennan, I'm sorry, if what his opinions were, if he had any data. As far as this intersection specifically at Anderson and Goose, we did look at the data there, and then our local traffic authority obtained the assistance of the University of Connecticut Transportation Institute Training and Technical Assistance Center, T2. Basically, they're a team that comes out and looks at the intersection. So I'm going to kind of, if it's all right with you, kind of run in a reverse order here, actually, and just kind of say, Chief Lytle, do you have any thoughts on the intersection?
No, obviously after the last recent incident of the summertime, I started seeing a concern, and I think it's obviously the concern coming from Coventry that people just don't realize the stop sign. There might be a lot of data that we have, but some of the data doesn't show if it's a serious injury and if it's non-transport. So if people sign off on refusals, it's not a real data capture. But when you get 2 cars, 3 cars that are totaled, it's still a insurance. It's still a lucky. Obviously, the cars are made a lot different nowadays and people walk away. But it's just one of those things where I believe that some of the traffic is increasing coming from Coventry, and it's just a bad hill, bad slope, sight line issue of a couple things that could be improved that we can reduce 1 to 2. It could possibly save another life or prevent injuries. So I think there's some minor improvements and some things that we could be proactive, and at least brought it to everybody's attention.
And we had a discussion, the same group I mentioned who I go to, we also met and discussed this exact intersection to come up with some ideas, and there was a general consensus. But Trooper Brennan, your thoughts on the intersection?
I agree with Chief Lytle that it is an issue. It seems to, out of all the traffic accidents that we had compiled, or half of them were because of people just not realizing that one person had a straightaway coming up the road on Anderson, not having and then everybody else having stop signs. So whether it's stop signage, there is concern there. So something to be done. I'd be ready for it.
All right, lastly, I have Director Lappin here and Assistant Director CK Chris Kelly here as well to talk about the findings. If they enlisted the help of T2, who are the recognized experts in exactly this field. So Director Lappin, you want to provide anything?
Sure. The signage, which both of these gentlemen feel is an issue, was looked at. All of them have placards on them showing that traffic from the left, from the right, what have you, is there. They did recommend that we put in one more of their red reflective stripes in the post, which we have done. The only other thing that they suggested was painting stop bars, which we have not done because of the weather. This report was done back, I don't know, a month or two ago. It's just too cold to paint. We will paint those in the spring. Discussion is taking place about adding a stop sign, not from this group, but in general, adding a stop sign coming from the other way on Goose. The concern is, we'll say with weather like we're having right now, you get school buses sitting there waiting to take off. They take off and they start slipping and sliding, not just school buses, but any traffic. And it's been experienced in the past that it was a challenge to get going up that hill.
All right, thanks. So it attached to the packet is a copy of an elaborate copy of T2's recommendations for the area. We'll take them up on their recommendations on that. Does council have any questions?
Yeah, question. So I just have a couple of things. So, Scott, I know you mentioned, the consideration of whether it makes sense to add that stop sign to that intersection. And so I know the way the road is sloped and turn and all that, so that there's some concern there. So was there, the consideration sort of weighed between, the danger with us not having, potential danger with us not having a stop sign there to the accidents versus that was weighed against, concerns that if there was a stop sign added, that would potentially create added safety concerns? Was that sort of the balance that?
Yes, we brought up that concern while we were out there with Jason Hughes from T Squared. And he felt that the 3 stop signs were good. If you eliminate the one coming down Goose, the traffic is just going to speed that much. They're going to go through that much quicker. And it's going to make it that much more dangerous. If you're pulling out on from Anderson and you're looking right towards Coventry, you have to creep out enough that you're at the stop bar, you're in your legal limit, but you can see traffic. If somebody is moving at a greater rate of speed, could be like dodgeball.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. So there was both a discussion of whether to add that 4 stop sign or whether to also remove the other stop sign that's opposite, whether there isn't one. Correct. And that was decided that would not increase safety.
Yes.
Okay. And just one other question. I know is the only thing that the T2 safety recommendations mentioned that we implement but we haven't yet is this painting of the stop bar, or was there
For that intersection, yes, 3 stop bars.
Okay. And so this might be a question for you, Ryan. I can't remember. Have we explored yet just other areas in town or other traffic safety we should try to implement in other areas? Or is that something that we can look into?
You're stealing my thunder as I was going to move on to another one. Okay. Some questions came up about exiting the high school, and you drop a student off there, it's kind of tricky. I wasn't involved in the building of the high school 20 years ago. I have to assume that was a concern then. Director Lappin reached out to T2 again and had them come out and look at that one. And Scott, what they give you for that? There had been requests, I believe. I don't know if you saw it. Did it come to you guys?
A mirror.
Yeah, a mirror there. Go ahead, Scott.
I'm not sure how familiar you are with the 300 plus page, which is called the MUTCD, which is Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. Nowhere in there is any recommendation, any mention of these convex mirrors, because they present a false sense of view. It's especially in the location there at the high school, it doesn't give you a clear view of the traffic coming from either direction. Again, there are many towns that have actual documentation against the installation of these on any of their roads. The state will not put them up on a road, even if it's a town road abutting. They will not use them just because they're not considered safe. Their recommendations were, it is a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. We have 2 lighted signs that were in about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, when we redid Old Cat Hole Road. One is closer to Rhodes Road. The other one is on the other side of the middle school. They suggested taking the one from Rhodes Road and moving it closer to the high school. They're also looking into doing some specialized painting, which would stem off of the white guidelines. And what it is the lines they're narrow to start with, the spacing between them and the width of the line. And as they get closer and closer, it prevents a visual, like, you know, the road is narrowing up, and it helps to slow traffic down.
Very fun house.
Yeah. Can I one follow-up? So the lighted sign you're referencing, are those like the speed limit, like the like kind of flashing through the speed above it? That's what we're talking about. Okay, thank you. Questions on that, please?
I want to thank you for doing such a comprehensive study on this, especially since it came to us just 2 weeks ago based on residents' concerns. So thank you very much for going through this. And yes, I am exceedingly familiar with the MUTCD, and yeah, it's on a good night, it can put you to sleep. One of the things that I wanted to call attention to that I think would be a good educational opportunity is that you do talk about the 30 feet of space between the stop bar on Eagle Hill and the northbound lane of Old Cat Hole, and then the appropriate behavior for motorists to stop and then to check their sight line. I've encountered a lot of people that believe that like that stop bar is like an electrified field and you can't inch beyond it, right? That the appropriate behavior is actually allows you to then check your sight line by moving beyond that stop bar. And I think there's an educational opportunity for us. Your point about the teachers, or their point about the teachers,
Right.
is great. But I think we could post something on the town website or with the endorsement of our resident troopers that would, because I know older adults that have gotten agitated when I've moved beyond the stop bar to check sight line. Like, you can't go by there. And I'm like, no, you actually can. So thank you for, for them to bring that up, because I think it's a good opportunity for us. So thank you.
They also did mention enforcement, which,
Right.
that's up to the resident
Right.
troopers.
Understood. I know people and people get flying on that road, right? It's a challenge. It's
Yeah,
always been a challenge.
while we were out there watching, it was, both of the gentlemen that came from T Squared, our previous policemen. And they were watching and they were trying to guess the speeds, and some of them were increased quite a bit until they
Yep.
saw the yellow jackets, then they slowed down.
Yep.
So I can see how it's a little confusing. You have two lanes coming out of the high school. And if you have somebody who's trying to look to the left who wants to turn right.
Yep.
And you got on the left side is creeping up, they have to keep creeping up, and it's a challenge,
Understood.
but a mirror isn't gonna fix
So thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
And I would suggest that if you do a learning curve or an educational thing, the perfect time to hit it is August, right before September with the superintendent, because it's always the new parents that are dropping somebody off that don't know the routine. They haven't gone through that routine of stop, let this one go, let this one go. And it's always the first 2 to 3 weeks that we have the minor offender members in front of them.
And I think part of the concern was also new student drivers as well.
Exactly,
Right?
so just to share whatever we do, have the superintendent and his news
Yeah.
bulletins and with the parents, so they know it's a process.
Thank you.
So we do see a lot of traffic complaints, both written to correspondence to us, myself, and also on social media. We've asked, when we do get those, we forward them to the resident trooper's office. We've asked for additional enforcement and are seeing some additional enforcement as well. As you know, on next week's council agenda item is a speed camera company is going to come in and talk about speed cameras in distal part of our town where we've seen fatal accidents as of late. And that the first part of that would be a traffic study. It's just a discussion on the traffic study, basically, in the areas that we're looking at. And so with that, if you have anything else.
Other questions on any of this from the council, traffic safety in general, or on any of these reports? Seeing none, I'll thank you to town staff, to the resident troopers and to people like Tal for all the work that goes into sort of doing this. I think it's important that we look at these and any other areas that sort of are identified as potentially traffic problematic spots. And appreciate whatever the resident trooper's office can do to have their enforcement. Sometimes just being individually deterrent can help slow things down. So we appreciate that. And so, yeah, anything we can do to increase traffic safety, I think is important in town. And so I'm glad to see that there's a couple of things both from the Anderson and Goose intersection and the high school intersection at Old Capitol, that there's some things that we can do going forward, whether it's making the lines or what have you. So appreciate that. I think that's it. There's no other questions. Thank you. Thank you. So that brings us to agenda item 8.5, appointments to vacancies on various municipal boards and commissions. We have one new appointment and two reappointments. There is the new appointment is Karen Moran to serve on the Nonprofit Housing Corporation. There's a reappointment, two reappointments to the Tolland Water Commission, Gene Koss and Rob Green. As I say at most of our meetings, greatly appreciate residents who are willing to volunteer. The town couldn't operate without the great volunteers that we have on things. And so whenever we can get, encourage residents to step forward and to dedicate some time to the town, we greatly appreciate it. So, Councilor Shea, did you have anything else on the appointments or anything you wanted to mention?
No, Chris, you pretty much summed it up. Just like to thank everybody again for volunteering. Karen Moran has been in many, many different roles over several years. And it was nice for her to volunteer for yet another role here for the town. So appreciate that. And the other two gentlemen have been on the Water Commission for several years. I've done a great job there as well.
Thank you. So with that, I will entertain a motion to appoint or reappoint the three individuals as outlined in agenda item 8.5. Moved by Councilor Beebe. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Shea's box is green, is what I can see, so I'll say seconded by Councilor Shea. Is there any discussion? Not seeing any. We will do a roll call vote. Councilor Beebe.
Aye.
Councilor Bista.
Aye.
Councilor Shea.
Aye.
Councilor Wells.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. So those three individuals are unanimously appointed. So thank you for that. So agenda item 9 is old business, of which we have none. So that brings us to the report of the town manager.
Thank you, Chair. So I want to thank the Department of Public Works and Chief Lytle and the fire department in our EMTs throughout the storm. Despite some chatter online about how terrible the roads are, having worked in other municipalities and across the state, I can assure you our roads were in very good shape throughout the storm. I would always like more trucks and more staff, but we work within the budgetary guidelines that we have, and I think that they did an outstanding job. There's some challenges with the temperatures, and the packed ice has created some. The road isn't bare asphalt, let me put it that way. So it's not going to be that way in New England. And so they did the best they can, and I thank them. We had minimal power outages here in town. Eversource stayed in. I don't think we had any power outages, but Eversource stayed in contact with us throughout the storm at any rate. Minimal accidents or no accidents virtually throughout the beef of the storm. We did have some medical calls, and Chief Lytle had a plan prior to pair up an ambulance with a service truck with a plow on it. So that if they went out, and they did, they would go out together, and he stationed them at different fire departments across town. So I thank the staff that did that, and the volunteers that were involved in that. I saw the cars parked out in the station near my house throughout the storm. Very thankful to have them. As you know, the ice rink was cleared today and opened, and there was some complaints, why isn't DPW out in trucks, and why are they clearing the ice rink? We have more staff than trucks, and all our trucks are out. And when we have staff that's not out in a truck, they begin working on our facilities, our parks, and our sidewalks, which includes Crandall's, the sidewalks, and the ice rink. And so that's what had occurred today. As regards to salt and diesel, other towns, I met with town managers last Wednesday, a regional town, town managers in the region. Two of the towns ran out of salt, and one of the towns was having issues with diesel. Thanks to good adequate funding by town council and good planning by our DPW director, we have not had those problems. I will say that the storms have been very expensive throughout the winter. They all seem to be falling on Sundays or holidays or overnight, and that can get expensive. On a Sunday, it's about $1,400 an hour for the whole crew to be out there. And so while the staff, the funding has not been a concern at all during the storms, and will continue not to be. We might have to look at the financial issues and move some funding around to support their efforts if the storms continue at this rate. And I believe we should be able to absorb, knock on wood, that the storms don't get crazy without having to take council action. But there exists that possibility. The parking ban, I reached out to the Connecticut State Police. There was 3 habitual parkers that park in the road no matter what through the storms. They were able to get 2 of them moved. The third's there. We will look at towing that third car that's, I believe, on Carriage Drive. You can see if you drive on Carriage Drive, it looks like an igloo right now. We'll look at that for the next storm, getting it towed. As I said before, we're having a next week's meeting. We're going to look at the next town council meeting. We'll look at the traffic cameras and also the funeral scam and the update on that. So that'll be in regards to what's going on with the current funeral home, what's going on with the criminal investigation, and what is our senior center done to assist. I'm working with the town of Stafford. Again, I had met with the town of Stafford regarding the transfer station and using their transfer station. So basically, instead of just waiting, only having the option of calling Casella or waiting for the annual town bulk pickup, we'll have an additional option where we can go to Stafford and use their transfer station there as well. There's obviously some logistics to figure it out, but I would bring that to council obviously before we did anything official. Egypt, our town health insurance, the board of directors voted to disband, which I feel is bad news for us. But basically it became not sustainable. Some towns got hit really hard with claims and became absolutely not sustainable or affordable for them. And now we'll move into the process of working with our consultant at what other options we have for our town employee healthcare. Now, we, the town of Tolland, are the small group of people as compared to the Board of Education, but luckily, Dr. Willett was the chair of ECHIP, and he and I and our consultant will work together to look at some of the options out there. Basically, it's almost like a bid process. We'll look at what's the most affordable, but also considering the benefits and moving for that. But we'll keep council up to date when something moves forward with that, but will likely come across during the budget process. As Councilperson Shea mentioned, farmers market or the local farmers meet and greet on February 2nd. I thank them for that. And that's all I have. If there's anything, last council meeting, we had a resident come in and look to get an exemption on the taxes on their personal property, a veteran. We went to our town attorney for that, and there is absolutely no way for us to provide that exemption. Was his opinion. I believe I sent that to you and Joe.
Questions? Councilor Shea.
So on the ECHIP, we've touted that as a huge savings for us, having that program with all the other towns involved. Do we expect now to see a large increase in our insurance costs because of that? And do we have any idea how to estimate that?
You're right. It has been a huge savings for us, but other towns not so much. So that's why they got out. A lot of towns are jumping to the state plan. We'll look at the numbers and the costs, and we're going to have to budget it one way or the other. It's too early without looking at all the options out there, Joe, to see if it's going to be an additional cost for us.
Sorry, Brian, does that run on a calendar year, that insurance program? So are we looking at, this is going to be an issue for January 2027? So half of our...
It's July 1st or January 1st, but it does run off of that.
It's July to June.
It is, so it follows our fiscal year.
Yep.
Yep.
That's the plan year, the health plan year.
Okay, so this will clearly hit our budget for next year. Are we going to be able to estimate that by that time, the impact that this has on this breaking apart?
We have a consultant that'll help us assist us right through that.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? I have a couple. When was the ECHIP voted to disband?
I believe Wednesday or Thursday, this past Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay.
I voted against it.
Okay.
I was the only one.
And we have a consultant that you mentioned that will help us sort of navigate.
And a meeting coming up, I believe, at SB, you know when that meeting is, we would, with myself, Dr. Willett, Mike Wilkinson really handles a lot of that on our end too, coming up this week. Yeah.
Once we have just a better sense of things, can we get that back on the council agenda?
Sure, yeah, we need to have Dr. Willett come too, because again, we, the town, are a small number of employees as compared to the Board of Ed, and when you think about it, our Teamsters have a different medical, so DPW, most of them aren't even on our medical. So we are small.
Okay, yeah, I just think it'd be good, even before, there's any definitive solutions, but just getting an update on where that's at, so that'll be
Yes, sir.
a significant thing. Second thing I just wanted to clarify, you mentioned the speed camera. And so I know that that's been something that you brought up before, and I appreciate that you're looking into that. We'll have that discussion at the next council meeting.
Yes, sir.
But before we would, before council would take any action on that, there'd be the chance for public input and all that, correct?
Absolutely. There'd be a study, we'd have data. It's a long process to move into that, and there's opportunity. Obviously, it would take a ordinance or resolution for you guys to move forward with that. And that would require a public hearing.
Yeah, just wanted to make that clear, folks, that this is the beginning of sort of a process, one process to make sure that this is the right move for Tolland. Yes,
Can you just clarify, because maybe I missed it, it's disbanding as of June 30th, or is it disbanding like immediately, or what is?
Not immediately, as of, I believe, June 30th. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah, they're preparing documents to end it as of June 30th right now.
And then I believe at a prior meeting, you had mentioned that you guys had, or maybe we had looked at the state program or others, and it was not so great, maybe?
There's potential for it to get expensive, I think is what I had said.
Okay.
Agreed. Now, when I met with the other town managers in the region, very happy with their state insurance, but we do see potential. There's different levels of state insurance, but they were very happy with it. But again, looking at the costs down the road, I see potential down the road.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm sorry, you looked at me and I totally fell out of my head what I wanted to do. And I just wanted to reiterate what you said about thank you for, they're gone, for no, you're not. Thank you for your efforts during the storm. Number one, we get continual updates from public safety as far as storm documents, as far as like storm progression and forecasts and stuff, which are massively helpful. So thank you for continuous updates. And I second what you said. I think that we had, it was a tough storm. We haven't had one like that in a really long time. And I think we got a little bit spoiled. And I found that we were able to get out and about much sooner than I expected us to. So
Thanks.
kudos. All right, so that brings us to agenda item 11, adoption of minutes. I will entertain a motion to adopt the January 13th, 2026 regular meeting minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Councilor Wells. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilor Bisa. One thing I just want to do, I want to thank Lisa. She took the minutes based on the video last time. I know that this time she's also taking the minutes from the video. So just appreciate that. So any other discussion on the January 13th minutes? There's any discussion, I should say.
No.
Okay, so we'll do roll call vote. Councilor Beatty.
hi.
Councilor Bisa.
Aye.
Councilor Shea.
I was absent, so I'll abstain.
Councilor Wells.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well, so that passes with Councilor Shea abstaining. So that brings us to correspondence to council. So this was at least, much appreciate Sarah Beth as always for helping keep me on track. This was the correspondence we received up until 3:15 today, I think is when the list was put together. So we received 2 letters regarding charter updates, 2 letters regarding current council vacancies, 1 letter regarding the Board of Ed workshop on January 21st, and 1 letter regarding the January 27th, 2026 council agenda. And we may have received one or two after the 3:15 mark, but we'll include those in the next round. So that's our correspondence. So as far as my chair report, I do want to emphasize the big thanks to the Department of Public Works, to Public Safety, and everyone that has been working tirelessly to keep the streets clean and keep the town open and running as best as possible. It was definitely a lot of snow that we haven't had recently, so really appreciate that. I know the timing of the storms have been tough as well, in terms of needing DPW staff to be working overnight to keep the roads clear, and so I really do appreciate that. And then yeah, I think that's all that I have. So that brings us to agenda item 14, communications and petitions from council persons. Councilor Shea.
Sure. Just one quick request. Every year the Board of Ed has a surplus, right, that they put into their fund balance, and it would be helpful every year if we can get an estimate of what that amount is going to be, because for the budget, because we're obviously voting on the budget before we have that number finalized. So it'd be a good idea. And I mean, we know what the running expenses are, so there has to be some way to estimate that. And if we could get an estimate of that during the budget time, that would be very helpful. So I'm just asking, sorry, Chris. I'm just asking if Brian could have someone in his staff reach out to the Board of Ed and see if we can get some estimate on that amount before we start or during we start the budget process.
I can absolutely do that for you. We've already done that, Joe.
Okay.
I can send that to you.
Oh, you've got the number ready, Brian?
No, I don't have the number. We made the request.
Okay. Okay, thanks. And that's it.
Perhaps you could just sort of an average, but that's obviously up to the Board of Ed to provide as they see fit. Any other communications and petitions from council persons? Sorry, Councilor Walsh, did you have your hand up before?
No, I'm gonna pass, Chris, but thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Beebe?
Just a couple of things quickly. You mentioned our correspondence, and there were some comments about charter revisions and charter status, and I apologize because I had intended to work with our chair to provide greater context on that. There were some questions or statements made that were kind of requesting us to do things that were not supported by this charter or supported by state statute. So I think we just need to clarify that. And we got away from me in the storm, and the dog ate my homework. So I apologize, but I will work with the chair to make sure that we get a detailed response out on that. And then just following the comments and the conversation we had last week, and I wanted to thank Commissioner Visa for talking with me about the vulgar letters that were received by some members of our Republican colleagues, and wanted to just reiterate, I don't know where that stands and really haven't seen much more of it, but we can continue to have that conversation. And our police officer is gone, but and we'll stop it and we'll make it known to them that I am very, very serious about working with them to provide a reward leading to the arrest of somebody who did, committed that. So we can continue to work together on that. I think we condemned it a lot in the last meeting. We'll condemn it moving forward, and I think Commissioner Wells also did a fabulous job of following up on that and condemning it as well. So,
anything else? Okay. Yep. And I'll just reiterate, what I mentioned at the last meeting with regards to that. I fully agree with Councilor Beebe. No one in town deserves to have any sort of threatening or harassing letters sent to them regarding viewpoints on anything. And as I mentioned at the last meeting, I definitely think, to the extent that it's possible, seek law enforcement action for sure, because nobody should be subject to that. So thank you. So that brings us to agenda item 15, public listed participation on any subject within the jurisdiction of the council with a 2-minute limit. So I will start in the room. So go ahead and And just please remember to state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mackenzie Manning Ellish. I live at 37 Pembroke Drive. Just want to make clear that I'm speaking on behalf of myself and not any board or commission I've been elected to or the party that I caucus with. I'm profoundly disappointed in the inaction to seat a qualified councilwoman to this town council. When you all were elected and took your oath to begin your term as council members of the town council, your responsibility was to act expeditiously on town business, and delaying this vote and delaying the seating of Mary Rose is a disservice to the residents of Tolland. And I think that it's important that we fill these seats and move beyond the 2 vacancies and get to work for the residents of Tolland. Thank you.
Thank you. I will go back to, I'll go online. If you would like to speak in your online, please raise your Zoom hand. Michelle, I think you up first. Can we ask Michelle to unmute?
On. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Michelle Harold, 194 Sugar Hill Road. I would like to just say that I'm also very disappointed that this seems to be out of spite and for no other reason, because Mary Rose is very much involved in our community. She would make a great town council member. And I can't believe that we couldn't come together to approve this so that she could be involved in everything that's happening with the budget cycle right now. So that's, really doing a disservice to all of us residents that we're down 2 and we had a great candidate and it wasn't approved. So anyway, that's that. I also, if we're going to take into consideration the money that the board may have left over at the end of the year, I think we should also take into consideration the vast amount of money that the town has left over at the end of the year and make that part of the conversation also when you go into budget season and you really start digging down into it. Thanks so much.
Thank you. I will go back to the room.
Good evening, Joel Lopez, 30 Crystal Ridge Drive. My comments and words that I'm saying here tonight have nothing to do with my position on the Board of Education or my party. Just like Mary Rose, my background, along with my 30 years in the military, my background is emergency management. And because my background is in emergency management, we rely on data and facts and truth. And because I rely on data, facts, and truth, I took it upon myself to look up what the qualifications were to be part of town council. 1, you have to be 18 years old. You have to be a registered voter. And you have to be a resident of town. That is the qualification for someone who is running. I also looked up what the qualifications were for someone who was appointed, just like we were trying to do here tonight. Guess what? Same qualifications. What were the disqualifiers? A felony, which I'm pretty sure she doesn't have. A non-resident. We've established she's from here. One thing that's not on there is her saying something negative on Facebook. So to sit here and say that someone's not qualified is mind-boggling, right? It's clearly personal. It's a vendetta for whatever reason. So instead of coming here and doing what you as elected officials were paid here or selected to do, but the people for Tolland voted you to do, we're sitting here playing games. All right. The woman is clearly qualified. Let's get to business and get to work. Thank you.
Thank you. I will go back online. Jen Gauchia.
Yeah, hi, Jen Galashian, 150 Timber Trail. I just want to say I'm so disappointed that the appointment of Mary Rose DeBarrick was blocked this evening. I'm going to need some additional time to get my thoughts together on this, honestly, but this was unreasonable and unnecessary. Mary Rose DeBarrick is an outstanding member of our community who I know to be respected by many, many people on both sides of the aisle, every side of the aisle. She's been volunteering her time for our parent, teacher, and booster organizations for at least 12 years. She's volunteered countless hours to beloved community charities like Tolland Cares, and so much more. I'm not a TDTC member and could not participate in a vote to endorse her, but I could not have been more honored that she volunteered to serve our community. Not to mention, this is a very involved and respected community member who was voted against tonight. I don't think it's news to anyone here that it's been difficult to find willing candidates to run for office, mainly because of concerns of divisiveness. These kinds of actions only further those feelings. A couple of other things from the discussion tonight. As for comments regarding unaffiliated versus Democrat seats, I am unaffiliated and I sit in a Democrat seat. I was endorsed as a candidate by the Democratic Committee, and the Democratic Committee paid for my campaign. Regarding the comments about counselors willing to compromise, from my memory, Councilor Shea, in public meetings, we heard former Councilor Udacek say, I believe you were holding them hostage when you refused to compromise during the budget process. Former Chair Mari questioned your unwillingness to compromise as well during that process. Last, we heard a lot about setting precedent when chosen leadership was not bipartisan this term, even though this was the beginning of setting that precedent. I'd like to point out that I can think of at least 2 examples in the last 5 or 6 years, I think, that there have been 2 Republican appointees who were known to be quite partisan, quite outspoken publicly, including in public meetings and on social media. And they were voted in because the Democrats respected the rights of the Republican Party to endorse the appointment to fill their vacated seat. I'm so sorry, Mary Rose, that this happened to you tonight. I honestly feel embarrassed that this could and this would be done. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go back to the room.
Heather McCann, 62 Crossland Drive. I am one of many on the nomination committee for the TDTC, and we don't treat finding the task of finding a qualified candidate lightly. We're not just looking for warm bodies. Mary Rose has been an active community member who has been a huge asset to this community and has demonstrated the ability to work collaboratively on committees across the aisle. She's a perfect candidate and you guys know it. It is the uncollaborative behavior that has been demonstrated tonight by Councilors Bisa and Jay that has made it even more challenging to get qualified individuals to step forward. I personally have doubts you'll approve any candidates we put forward. This is a very critical time, it's budget season, and this will challenge the council's ability to fill its obligations. Further, and I don't know anything about this, I'm wondering, it would really be a great shame if legal had to get involved in any costs to the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you. I will go back online. Lisa Burns.
Let's see. Okay. I'm not able to start my video, so I apologize for not having that on. My name is Lisa Burns. I live at 214 Slater. I am the Tolland Republican chairperson. I'm speaking up tonight because of several different things. One, as the chair, my job is to get Republicans seated and elected. It is also to represent the Republican constituents in town. While last budget season or referendum, we felt that we needed to show both sides. I was getting a lot of mail and comments from Republicans feeling that they weren't heard. And Joe Shea was brave enough to come forward and share his feelings about the budget. I don't feel that that's being difficult. I feel that that's being true to himself. And I think that the rest of you would feel that that is a good quality. I think we're all trying to be true to ourselves. And so what I'm asking is to allow that to happen with collaborative conversation as opposed to beating each other up. Personally, as a citizen, a resident of Tolland, I'd like to see that be better. The stuff online, the conversations, accusing people of being not willing to talk through things is really disturbing. For those who do know me, I think you would know that you can pick up the phone and have a conversation. And I would say Renee and Joe are both the same. If you have a disagreement, you call and you have a conversation, as opposed to accusing people of not being bipartisan. My next comment is about arbitrary violence. Yes, we had a candidate who was exploited by certain people in this town, and unfortunately, being the media, they never told the other side of the story. So this person now has to walk around with a stigma. But let me tell you, there's another person who stepped down recently who came at me physically after the post-election event. And I'm not saying names, Chris. I'm just saying that it was very disturbing to me. And talk about violence. It is not acceptable to physically go after somebody from another party. Let's do better, folks. As far as
You could just start to wrap up just because the 2 minutes is up. If you could start to wrap.
I understand. I've also reached out to several folks from the other side to come together in a community setting to have discussions about our campaigns and our community. And my one last thing to say is that campaigns and politics really suck. Okay. It divides people. It doesn't bring people together. People are not willing to talk with one another. But after the campaigns are over, let's be a community again. If we disagree with each other, let's have good conversation around that. And I invite you, Chris Moran, to have that conversation, which I've reached out to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I'll go back to the room.
Karen Moran, 50 Merlot Way. Thank you for accepting my appointment this evening. Looking forward to serving the community again in a little different capacity. I believe we currently have about 40 vacancies still on town boards and commissions down there. I don't know what the exact number is. So I'm confused that you would not accept an appointment like Ms. Duberric this evening, and what transpired earlier in the meeting. As Councilor Shea noted, I've been in many different volunteer roles here in the community over the years. Mary Rose has also been in very similar roles, and we work alongside each other in those roles in the community. So again, I'm confused as to why I got accolades tonight for those similar reasons. Yet Mrs. Duberric got a big fat no from some people here this evening. So my question, I just want to end with, for anyone to answer, Councilor Moran maybe, is what does this delay do to the work that needs to be done by the council moving forward, especially in budget season, and also the time it takes for someone, once they're seated, to kind of roll up into that budget season and be familiar with the process. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I will go back online. Christine Griffin.
Hi, Christine Griffin, 80 Doran. I have two questions that I'll just throw out there, and maybe if somebody does end up replying to my email, because I think I put these in there, but I would like to know, Mr. Moran, do you know if there is a candidate being considered for the second vacant seat at the moment? So then maybe that would resolve kind of some of the concerns that the Republicans had tonight, if there is actually a name being floated out there. And also, have you considered, Mr. Chair, that putting a Republican as a vice chair that might help with showing some bipartisanship and help the current divisiveness? I think that might also go a long way. And finally, just want to make a statement that I applaud the Republicans for not voting tonight on any candidate and wanting to find out about both of the potential candidates before they do so. It's very important to find people that you can work with. And I speak from experience with that. And I was disappointed that when the Republicans spoke their why, that they were kind of spoken to kind of rudely tonight. So I can see why they want to make sure that the candidates that fill those 2 seats are 2 people that they might be able to work better with. Thank you.
Thank you. I will go back to the room.
Beckett Murray, 8 Lisa Lane. This is a disappointment. The fact that there's 5 members of a town council that's supposed to be 7. And we had the opportunity to appoint our 6th member here. There might not be someone to appoint the 7th, but we did not. This is a liability for the town. Years ago when Councilor Faluzzi resigned, Councilor Murray got put up and did that. When she resigned, I believe, Mary Lee, you took her seat.
No, it was your mom.
No, when my mom resigned.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like that system worked. Yet tonight it didn't. And that's just depressing, that the fact that a Democrat that was elected, not like like that seat is a Democrat seat. And you blocked that because of partisanship. The more people that are able to do the jobs assigned to town council, the better. There is a reason there's 7, not 5. And it's a liability to the town. There's not a proper way to conduct it without the full ability from the charter. If the charter says there needs to be 7 members, why is there 5? We had a 6th member. Why wasn't she appointed? Because of politics? That's crazy. We have a more than competent and competent person that could have been sitting here today. Yet we don't have that. I don't know why. Thank you.
Thank you. I will go online. Claudette Morehouse.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I just had a comment on Mrs. DeBerrick's consideration to be on the town council.
Claudette, could you just do name and address? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. Claudette Morehouse, 89 Merlot Way.
Thank you.
Her consideration to be on the town council, which is their job to represent all of Tolland. In a previous meeting during a budget season, we were both in person. And she basically was obviously deeply supportive on the higher taxes in favor of the Board of Ed budget, which is great. But then she spun around, looked right at me and said, "Your contaminated wells are not my concern." Now, will this attitude change if she gets to be a town council member? This board is for all of Tolland, not just what one supports. Her bio claims she can work across the aisle, but I feel a little bit uncomfortable that that's not going to happen. I'm concerned that not all of Tolland will be heard. This soon after an election, resignations and replacements is a tough situation to put on this town. So I am glad that this will be given more thought and not rush into another situation. Thank you.
Back in the room.
Excuse me, Mary Rose Barrick, 37 Ryan Road. Ms. Morehouse, just quickly, I know that's probably not the right rules, but I actually turned around and I said I was very sorry you had a contaminated well and that we should support it. You weren't listening. But I want to thank Councilor B.D. Wells and Chairman Moran, and actually both of them, Ms. Bisa and Mr. Shea. And I want to thank the many folks in town that supported me today and reached out through Facebook, ironically, texts and calls. And of course, the DTC. For the record, I am not on open discussion. I'm not on say whatever. I personally don't want to give them credibility that they do not deserve. But I didn't realize being critical of our elected officials and their decisions actually disqualifies a person from serving this town. Mr. Shea, I actually spoke to you directly at a town council meeting. I tried to look you in the eye, but you would not look at me. I was concerned that the budget was being cut too drastically shortly after, or right after there was a reduction and there was a 27-28 vote difference. After that, you cut the budget then by another $650,000. I said to you directly, I thought that was illogical. I also didn't realize that caring about our schools disqualifies me from serving on the town council. By that logic, does that mean you don't care about the schools or our students? I also care very deeply about public works and the fire department. Would that disqualify me from the Board of Education? I'm deeply disappointed in not being able to serve my town, something that I care very much about. And I was very much ready to talk to people at work across the aisle. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll go back online. Kate HB.
Evening, everyone. Kate Howard Bender, 103 Goose Lane. I've known Mary Rose for about 10 years, and I can say that she is one of the most level-headed, kindest, hardworking people I know. It's a shame that she wasn't appointed tonight. Republicans are clearly engaging in nonsense tactics to get to exercise power. Tolland is not being served by the people entrusted to serve it. Shame on you, Councillor Shea and Councillor Besaw. Your behavior was petty, disrespectful, and dangerous to our town in that we have insufficient representation during budget season. If I remember correctly, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, Rini was appointed to both the BOE and the TC. Pretty hypocritical of her to block this move in the name of bipartisanship and online. The secretary of the TRTC has engaged in dangerous, divisive, and sometimes violent rhetoric on the town boards. So this stuff about Facebook is just nonsense. It's excuses, and shame on you. If the Republicans really care about being bipartisan, the Republican members would have been better tonight. Right, Lisa? Apologies to Mary Rose. You tried to stand up for us, and you are being played with. You don't deserve this treatment. I don't think the town council should do any other business until we have all 7 seats filled. Please be well, everybody. Be safe and be kind.
Thank you. I will go back to the room. Seeing now, I'll go back online. Kate Vallow.
All right. Hi there. Kate Mallow, 80 Tolland Green. I have had the pleasure of collaborating with Mary Rose Duberic in both meeting and volunteer settings over the years. Mary Rose has been reliably professional, kind, and thoughtful, always acting in the best interest of the community that she is serving. In leadership roles, I've noticed that Mary Rose's ability to listen carefully to input and balance all information to come up with solutions that support everyone is well honed. When I heard that Mary Rose was going to be seated on the town council, I was thrilled for the town of Tolland. It is abundantly clear that the vote this evening was about politics and not about the merits of this highly qualified candidate. As the town manager mentioned earlier this evening, volunteers on the council and every board or commission in town contribute a tremendous amount of time and effort, all unpaid. We should all rise up to support our volunteers and not block their nominations for partisan reasons. The duty of this council is to fill open seats as guided by the charter in an expeditious manner, not to interrupt the government process for partisan reasons. So I do have some questions. I'm curious about where in the charter it says that 4 votes were necessary to move this confirmation forward. And if it's not in the charter, on what grounds did the lawyer recommend disregarding a majority vote? And finally, when will the council have another opportunity to confirm this qualified candidate? Thank you for your service and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Go back to the room. One final, go ahead, George.
George Ulrich, Fish Game Road, unaffiliated voter. And as you can see, this is why. Because this country doesn't work anymore. Town council hasn't worked for 4 or 5 years, and it's only getting worse. Everybody's got one side or they got the other side. We should have 7 unaffiliated. You should almost have to give up your party before you get sworn in. And then maybe you'd care about what's going on in the town and not one party or the other, or the school or the road or the fire department. You think of everything and work together. So I find this whole thing kind of comical. I could have predicted it. And you know what? I don't know why everybody's getting there all excited. All you got to do next 2 weeks from now is replace Miss Butler. Duh, a Democrat replacing a Democrat. And then nobody can complain. And then you got your 4 votes. Just don't get excited. It's all going to work out. And it's going to work out in 2 weeks. There's no way they can turn it down. If you put up a Democrat to replace a Democrat, not an unaffiliated, why he ran as a Democrat, I don't know. But if he's unaffiliated, to be totally perfectly fair, it should go up for a runoff, a special election. A Democrat and a Republican, find out who wins. Easy peasy.
Thank you, George. I will go back online. And one final time to the room. And seeing none, I'll go back online. Just make sure you give your name and address at the outset, please.
Tina Philbin, 11 Harvest Lane, Tolland. I found tonight to be disheartening and disingenuous. I sat there in the room hoping to see some of the democratic process work. The democratic process states that the seat of a Democrat is open to be appointed for a seat of a Democrat to replace that seat. It's an appointment. So although I would like, as Kate Ballo has asked, I know that there are some areas in the charter that require 4 votes. Again, this is an appointment. I'd like to know where it says it actually requires the votes when it was appointed and nominated by the Democratic Town Council. Also, this process is, in this instance, the opposing party obstructed the will of the Democratic Town Committee. This council should have adjourned and addressed the interference. We have 7 seats. Full representation is not optional. Ignoring that reality undermines the legitimacy of this body and sets a dangerous precedent. Where does this stop? When you finally get the outcome you want? What happens in 2 weeks when the 2 Republicans vote no for the new candidates that the Democratic Town Committee has proposed? Who requested legal advice and why? Was this obstruction coordinated in advance? Let's be clear, a qualified candidate is a resident endorsed by their party's town committee. Mary Rose meets those requirements, period. 3 councilors in the Democratic Town Committee have spoken clearly. She's our choice. So what new invented standard is now being applied and by whom? What makes you the authority to override a decision? Councilor Terry, Councilor Besaw, we are all volunteers. None of us were elected to decide who represents another party. I do recall sitting in a boardroom and with Rini being appointed, and she and I definitely do not see eye to eye. She and I definitely have opposing points of view. I voted yes on her appointment because I respected the RTC and their decision to have her replace Jacob Murray on the Board of Ed. I do recall Sophia Johnson, who was also elected to go to the town council to replace a seat on the Republican town from the Republican committee, and the town council of both sides appointed yes, respecting the process. You referred to unnamed people you consulted about Mary Rose. Who are they? And would they speak publicly or would they be relying on anonymous commentary and Facebook whispers to justify interference? This is not government. This is obstruction. If you want to see in which Democrat represents Democrats in this town, there's a simple, honest path. Switch parties and join the Democratic Town Committee. Until then, please stop interfering with our process and respect the outcome. I think there's a huge disservice of our town. Mary Rose and her entire family have committed to volunteering for decades here in Tolland. This gaslighting must stop. If we want to be aligned and be bipartisan and move forward for the budget, then we should do so. Thank you.
I was going back online one final time. I'll just give it one last call. Okay, seeing none, I will close out public listed participation. Which brings us to adjournment. Is there any objection to adjournment?
Can I make a clarification?
Sure.
So there were questions tonight about the charter section. So it's online. Anybody can Google it. It's section C4-3. That's what is being referred to. And excuse me. So that's what's being referred to. And I know that Chair Moran is still looking at that, but just for the record.
Thank you. Any objection to adjournment? Without objection, we are adjourned at 8:43 p.m. Thank you.